Happy Wednesday! What we're going to do today for reading is going to be a little bit different. We're going to continue actually to work on our fluency. Now, why do we work on our fluency? Do you remember? Well, if you can read fluently, that means it'll help you to better understand what you read. If you can more easily understand what you read, that's amazing. That's the goal. We want to more quickly comprehend or understand what we read. So being able to read fluently, that means to read words naturally. You go from one word to the next word. You can say the words correctly. You really don't have to work hard to read the word. If you can do that, it'll actually help you, it'll help your brain actually, to better understand what you're reading. This is really something that you want to work on. The Tortoise and the Hare fluency passage, you've already actually recorded that one time. I've already given you some feedback on Class Dojo Portfolio. So I would encourage you, if you haven't already, maybe pause the video and go to Class Dojo Portfolio to see what kind of feedback I gave you in regards to your fluency practice. Today, I'm going to actually have you re-record yourself reading aloud The Tortoise and the Hare. However, this time before we read, I want you to practice certain words. We're actually going to practice together. So I want you to actually pause the video in a moment. When you pause the video, I want you to pull up the, what's the name? I forgot. The Hare and Tortoise Fluency Word Practice. A mouthful. Can you pull up the Hare and Tortoise Fluency Word Practice? This is actually in Dropbox. I believe I have it in the assignment instructions as well. Go ahead, pause the video, and pull up that document. Okay, we're going to actually read these words together. Some of us, these are the words we pronounced. A lot of us pronounced or mispronounced a lot of these words. So we're going to practice them together. So if you see the first word is shall, steady, serious, you'll see I repeated the words 3 times. That's because we're going to say the words 3 times together. The more you practice saying words out loud, the better you'll become. The more fluent you are, the more easier it is to comprehend or understand what you are reading. Okay, let's look at shall. We're going to say this together. Shall, shall. Okay, let's say it 3 times each. Shall, shall, shall. Do you notice my tongue is kind of hitting the roof of my mouth? Shall. I don't know if you could see that. But that's kind of what I'm doing to make that double L sound. Shall. Okay, shall, shall, shall. I don't know if you can kind of see my tongue where my teeth are. Maybe you can pause the video and rewind it. Okay, next word, steady. Steady has 2 syllables, 2 sounds. Can you say steady with me? Steady, steady, steady. Okay, so 2 sounds. So I can say it slowly, steady. But if you want to read it more fluently, you need to say it a little bit quicker. Steady, steady. The third word is serious. Serious. Serious has 3 syllables or 3 sounds. Okay, we can say it slow. Serious. Serious. But when we read it fluently, we want to say the sounds together a little bit faster. So repeat after me. Serious, serious, serious. Okay, 4th one, far. Has an R sound at the end. Far. Let's say far together. Far, far, far. You know, where my mom and brothers and sisters live, that almost sounds like fire, how they would maybe say fire. But far is like the distance, where one thing is in location to something else. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5th word is race. It's an R sound, r. race. So make sure you're saying a race, R sound. So say race with me. Race, race, race. Good. That's a good R sound at the beginning. Okay. 6th word, insist. That's 2 sounds. Insist. Sist. That's kind of that last sound. So let's practice that slow. Insist. Insist. So when you read this, you need to make sure that you're saying that ST sound at the end. So let's say it 3 times each. Insist, insist, insist. Good. Okay, the next word has 2 sounds. When you read it, you're supposed to read it with 2-syllable sounds. Boasted. Now, boast. Let's think about the word boast. Do you hear it has that ST ending again? Boast. Now, the past tense of boast is boasted. Boasted. Can you say that? Boasted. So when you read, you really need to make sure that you're saying the ED sound with this. Boasted. Sometimes I notice that people don't say the ED sounds. So remember to say it. Boasted. Okay, 3 times each. Boasted, boasted, boasted. Nice. Okay, the next one's really, really tricky. How do you say this word? Tortoise. So, can you say this with me? Tortoise. Tortoise. It's really tricky because if you look at the letters, you don't really hear the I sound. Let's say this one 3 times each. Tortoise, tortoise, tortoise. Let's say it again because this was the most tricky word, or really the trickiest word. Tortoise, tortoise, tortoise. Good job. Tortoise. Okay. Next word, actually the next 3 words. I just want you to go ahead and look at the next 3 words. You'll notice that they're all past tense words. They're actually past tense verbs. And you notice they all have a suffix. They all end with a suffix of ed. These ed ones are different than boasted. So actually, napped. Did you hear that? I did not say napped. That's tricky. So you just need to learn and know this. Sometimes in English you need just to practice and learn it and memorize it. Napped. Napped. That's a little different. So let's practice that 3 times. Napped, napped, napped. Okay, good. Okay, next we have crossed. You hear that? Crossed. Crossed, crossed, crossed. Okay, say that with me again. Crossed, crossed, crossed. Okay, it means to go from one area to another. Okay, last one is the past tense verb brag. That has a G sound. So when you say the past tense of brag, it's bragged. Bragged. Okay, can you say that with me? Bragged. 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 Okay, say that with me 3 more times. Bragged. 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 Okay, that's really good. So I actually would encourage you to remember what words did you not say correctly in your fluency practice reading the first time. I would practice those words and I would practice these words. Then I would practice reading the tortoise and the hare one more time. Practice reading it, and then after you've practiced it at least once or twice, I want you to go to Class Dojo Portfolio and re-record yourself reading this passage. We'll see how much you've improved. The tortoise and the hare. So I'm going to actually read the passage now. If you scroll down on the document that we were just on, where we read the words together, you'll actually see again the tortoise and the hare reading. So you can follow along. If you are literally reading what I'm saying, you are going to have a better time understanding and knowing how to correctly say each word. So you would want to follow along. The tortoise and the hare. Once there was a hare that liked to brag. One day he bragged to a tortoise about how fast he could run. I can run faster than the wind, he boasted. It is very sad that you move so slowly. Perhaps you think I move slowly, said the tortoise. However, I am happy to race you. You cannot be serious, replied the hare. You are foolish if you think you can win. However, if you insist, we shall race. The next morning the race began. The hare started far ahead of the tortoise. But this didn't bother the tortoise. He moved at a slow and steady pace. The hare looked back and saw that the tortoise was far behind. That foolish fellow will never win, he said. I am so far ahead. I can take a long nap while he crawls along. Meanwhile, the tortoise kept moving at a slow and steady pace. After a while, he crossed the finish line and won. When the hare woke up, he saw that the tortoise had won the race while he napped. So remember, I want you to practice this. You're going to re-record yourself actually reading aloud this passage. So the goal for a third grader in the winter, we're in winter right now, is to read at least 92 words correctly per minute. So think, how many words did I say you read correctly? If it was 92 or higher, that means you are reading the number of words that you should be at this point for a third grader. In the spring, a third grader on average will read at least 107 words correctly per minute. So that is some goals for third grade level work. The last thing that you're going to do today, you also have to answer 2 questions. You have to answer 2 questions about this passage, the tortoise and the hare. So question number 1, what did the hare brag about? You have to answer that question. 2, why did the tortoise win the race? You don't need to ask a mom, dad, brother, or sister help to answer these questions. Just use the passage. You guys, actually, I forgot. You guys have been amazing here lately with your answers for reading. I've been really impressed with how a lot of you are actually finding your answers in the reading passage. You're becoming really smart and wise readers. You're going back, you're rereading, and you're finding what's called text evidence. So that's the sentences, that's the stuff you read in the story. You're using that text evidence to support what you think and to support your answer. Now that's smart. So when you answer these 2 questions, you guys can use that smart capability to help you answer the questions all on your own. Because guess what? If you can read fluently, then you can better comprehend and understand what you're reading. So I want to see, do you really understand this passage all on your own? I look forward to hearing your fluency passages. Keep up the good work, guys, especially with finding text evidence.